So as you know, there's kind of a couple of reasons why people want a conveyancer. And the first one is when they're buying a house. And I know that many of you, when you're speaking to those first home purchasers, will be, they're fairly clueless. They often don't even realize they need a conveyancer. They're just so caught up in the actual purchase, and they know they need the bank on board. They know they need to talk to a real estate agent, but the conveyancer often isn't top of mind for them. So often the first time they'll actually realize they need a conveyancer is when the real estate agent actually says to them, so who is your conveyancer? They'll actually ask, who is your conveyancer? And it's like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. And so they're unlikely to actually know what a conveyancer actually does. They're unlikely to know the fees and what to expect there. And they're unlikely to have a set of criteria by which they might actually choose a conveyancer. So they're not necessarily at this stage, if they're coming in fairly green, going, do I choose by, reputation, cost? Are they all the same? I don't really know. I don't really know what to do here. So the first thing most people will actually do if they haven't got a conveyancer, or if they're just thinking about this, they'll go and ask someone. So they might say to the real estate agent, oh, who would you recommend? And often real estate agents don't necessarily recommend conveyancers, or they might give them a series of names. But again, because they don't have criteria, they'll probably go and ask someone else. So they'll ask someone, a friend of theirs who's recently bought a house. They might ask family, but they'll probably be looking for those referrals. They've used a conveyancer when they bought. So they do understand that this is something that they need, and they have to get a Section 32. So that is the first thing that they'll probably even think about before engaging an agent, or they might get the agent and the agent will say, where's your Section 32? And then they'll go and get a conveyancer. So their first port of call may be the conveyancer that they used the first time when they actually bought, but it might not be for a variety of reasons. They might have been in a completely different location and believe that conveyancers are location specific, or they may not have had a great experience the first time round. So they may be looking for a new conveyancer. If they are looking for a new conveyancer, again, their first port of call is likely to be asking. They might ask the agent, or they may ask friends and family again. So it's really important to be top of mind at this point. Purchasing a house or selling a house, particularly the first house or even the second house, or if they're going through a divorce, selling the house is actually a very emotional decision. And that's something you need to be quite cognizant of, because when it's an emotional decision, when there's very high emotional, that's when you need a lot of trust. So if they're buying a house for the first time, likely to have very low level of knowledge, but the level of emotion is very, very high. They've got a lot of, this is the first time they've taken such a big risk. It's the biggest purchase they will have made in their lifetimes, the first house. And there's a lot of emotion associated with it. If they're selling their first home, their level of knowledge is probably around the medium level. They might not actually know all the services a conveyancer does. So they're going to them for the Section 32, but they don't necessarily understand everything else that the conveyancer could actually do for them. And the selling process in terms of emotion could still be high to very high. So even selling the first home, even if they're buying something amazing, the selling of your first home can be quite high in emotion. It's only when they're getting to that second time of buying and selling that the emotion comes down, or if they're actually investors, that emotion comes down again and that level of knowledge goes up.
Look, thanks, Liz. And I think, everyone participating today or watching the replay, will have dealt with clients that are, in these different stages. And particularly for that first time buyer, the importance of helping them understand what's involved and what you really need to be able to provide a proposal in terms of your fees. And remember, we often talk here at Business Advantage for conveyancers, we don't like to use the word quotes, because, plumbers quote, whereas professionals make a proposal. And you make the proposal, when you've asked the questions around understanding, whose name the property might be in, the type of property, a range of other things, so that then you can make an appropriate proposal and differentiate yourself from just a pure internet-related, marketer and provider of conveyancing services. So it's important to recall that, you are a professional demonstrating that you can be trusted helping them understand, particularly these first timers, what's actually involved. It's not just some simple thing in a couple of hours of admin. And that will build trust and credibility and improve the likelihood that they will actually make the decision to buy from you.
Look, as every time you see a Star Wars movie, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, you start from the beginning, and so you need to understand what is a brand, how does it work, where does it fit into branding, marketing, promoting, advertising, where do they all fit, and what is the right order, and therefore in which order you need to do them in. And when you look at branding, I look at it in this way. Think of branding as if when you look in the mirror, you're looking at what's on the outside, but your brand is what's on the inside. Your values, your personality, the way you are, your belief systems, those are what's on the inside, whether it's one person or multiple people in the business. You need to understand what we are like and what we stand for. And then the marketing is about how you dress, how you groom, how you present yourself to people outside. But the person on the inside is the one you're going to carry all the time. So look at your why. Your why is really important, your purpose. And it needs to be something that's a lot more than we want to make an impact. We want to help people get first homes. You've got to drill down to almost like unpeeling onion layers and go ask the question, why? Why does that matter? Why is it important? I was working with a buyer's advocate yesterday. We're going through her why, and she was talking about creating a safe haven and a safe castle and a place of sanctuary for people for first home buyers. So you need to go down to that level, and then from there you can start thinking, so how do we go out to the market? What products and services do we have? What solutions do we have? Who are we going to target? Who are we going to actually help? And then the marketing, either the activities, having your website, having your social media, doing your campaigns, whether they're paid or organic, where there are the activities to promote your business, so you can, as in marketing, to obviously make sales. But if you're going down that path, you think, well, how do I show myself to be different to everyone else? You need to differentiate, and that's where your brand strategy comes into place. It's unique to you. It's your unique identity. Instead of trying to be like everyone else and become same and no difference, and then your customers go, well, you kind of all look the same, I'll just go the cheapest price because the price is the thing that I know, and that's a differentiating point. We need to go beyond that. If you look at Apple, they introduced their VR system the other day, lots of great reviews, $3,500 US, high-end price, right? So you need to be thinking, how do I position myself so I'm seeing like that? So you get clients that want to work with you, that you like to work with, and you get great results, you get good relationships. You don't go down the bottom end and you're going to get all sorts of a mess to deal with, right? The Star Wars theme happening here. If you're going to use the Force and think, okay, look, branding is this mystical, mysterious, I don't know what really happens. If we go from a practical perspective to understand what it's all about, you want to think, okay, why do we need branding? It'll help with your loyalty, your customer loyalty and recognition as well. People will continue to buy from you, refer to you, receive your emails and still connect with you if you have a brand that is unique and is aligned. So we all know what we're saying, and it appears at every touch point. You make yourself appear different to everyone else because you have your own unique systems, your own way, and you promote that, and you through your website, through your social media, and all the other marketing avenues that you undertake. Because if you're not seen as different, like we said before, it becomes a question of price. You, as a service provider, it's a lot harder to promote and differentiate you as a person and your culture and the people you are than it is a product. One big pen and another pen is just, how does it feel? So instead of trying to commoditize it, bring out the personality. So what we need to find, what is different and how do we promote that? That will create a perception in the market that you are professional, right? Everyone is expecting conveyancers and all other service professionals to be professional, to be qualified, to have insurances, to do this, and that's all baseline, and it's expected. So it's not enough to say we are professional. We need to show that, we need to demonstrate that, and we need the perception to be that, they're actually pretty good. Why? Well, it feels like it, it sounds like it. And having a business that is on brand, all the touch points are aligned, and everything saying the same messaging means that you can up your price as well. For example, the Apple VR that came out, they will put the price that they want. So premium pricing also means premium clients as well. And that will allow you to grow your business because you're working with the right people, you're working with the right target market, the right pricing as well, and you're not mucking around with people that are just a one-off or a price shoppers. And then you, with their custom loyalty, they'll come back again, they'll refer as well. So you need to build that empire as you move forward. All right, so in terms of when you go out to brand, when you're going out and also getting reviews as well, you want to build that trust and credibility, because reviews, for example, give you social proof that you exist, and you do have a Google business profile, and people are leaving really good reviews, and you're responding to them as well. It allows you to manage your reputation by answering any queries or anything. If you didn't get a 5-star, yeah, but this was a little bit niggly, that's really good feedback as well. And it shows when you comment, and you comment quickly, that you're responding, and you value feedback, and you value their clients as well. From a technical perspective, your click-through rate and your SEO is going to improve as well, because when you search for a company or burger place in Essendon, whatever, you'll get a list of different burger places. You're going to get them in a list not with here's 20 reviews at 1 star, and down the bottom you get 5 reviews at 5 stars. You're going to get the higher reviews up the top. So you can't be looking at 3-4 pages down the track to get a burger. You're going to look at whatever's top 3 or 4. Same with most other businesses. So you want at least 20 reviews, and you want them to as high as possible. And also the words you use and the way you respond to a review. Don't just say, look, yeah, thanks very much, it was great working with you. Put in a story, because we all love stories, the behind the scenes. It's great to work with you, Bill and Liz, to get your first home and to solve that little problem. And nothing detailed. They don't have to expose any issues, but it gives you gives the reader an indication that there was more to it than that meets the eye, that you may have a model, a system, a process that you actually pretty good, rather than thanks, it was great working with you, let's get the next house going. And when you're reading reviews, it's going to help others with their buying decision. It'll influence them, because when you see positive reviews, oh yeah, we'll have a look at their website, we'll check them out. If you're seeing negative reviews, you move along. So with that, doesn't matter how good your website is or your socials, from the reviews, they'll make a buying decision. And it'll help to influence whether they're going to purchase one over the other, because they're actually reading the reviews as well. The other thing is, you'll see from a customer experience, when you're replying and you're replying with a story, it shows that you care, because people don't care about you until you show them how much you care about them. Okay, and that comes in every touch point. It's not about being fancy and pretty on the website and everything else. It's that interaction. If there's no value for me, if I'm not getting something for me, because what's in it for me is what everyone sort of we work towards. If there's no value for me, then I'm going to move on. If there's no differentiation, same, no difference. If it's just a price thing, yeah, well, I'll just go for the cheaper one. All right. And then when it comes to where can I go and promote myself, my brand, do my marketing, and it's also using your reviews. We've got a model here called the 5 branding channels. There's only 5 places you can put it. You can either have information on your website, on social media accounts. There's other online marketing, and there's a number of different things you can do in online marketing. Even your email signature. There's a lot of information you can have in different spaces. Promotional marketing, expos, business cards, pamphlets, letter drops, all the physical marketing that you do, and of course, traditional and digital media. So whatever you do, think of where is your target market, what are they listening to, where they're spending their time, and then put your efforts into where you're going to find them, so they can see you, and you can position yourself as being a premium brand.
Thanks, Costa. Just a couple of things. I noticed the QR code there on your back screen. Could you just explain to everybody what the scorecard thing is about? Because I understand you've got some simple ways of helping people get a sense of where they're at.
Yeah, it's the thing is, like, you can review a brand. You can say, well, how is it going? I like to look at having an engineering and project management background, do it methodically. So we've got a 7 branding principle model with 25 elements. So the scorecard actually asks you questions around all those 7 sections, and then gives you a score overall for your brand and for each of those sections, and recommendations on what you should be doing to up that score. So it gives you a review. It's objective. You go on and spend 7 minutes, and then you'll find out, oh, okay, these are the areas I need to improve on. If you want to take it further, that's fine. But at least you have an understanding of, if we're going to score yourself, well, here's a scorecard that'll allow you to do that in a very methodical and well thought out way.
Costa, just in case people can't scan that QR code sort of from their laptops at the moment, can you just share what's the website address for where people should go to have a look at this service you've got?
It's the name of the business, which is iconicbrands.com.
Okay,
So
fantastic.
just iconicbrands.com, and you'll find this. There's a business brand, a scorecard, and a personal brand. For most people running their own businesses or having a micro business, it's a personal brand. If it's like, I've got 20 people, it's the business brand. So you can choose which one.
Well, thanks for that. And I think the other thing I wanted to just reinforce, you talked about sort of how people make the buying decision, how they're assessing value. And I think it's important, for all of us, when we just think about our own buying behavior, at the end of the day, we're always selecting what for us represents the best value based on a simple formula that we may or may not be explicitly applying. But the formula is, what are the benefits that I'm going to get from this product or service that I'm buying? Plus what's the experience like, in terms of getting them? Is it going to be really easy and seamless and a pleasure to get them? Minus what's it going to cost me in money, cost me in time, maybe cost me in uncertainty. So there's that sort of formula at the simplest level. What are the benefits? What do I perceive the benefits will be minus what the costs are going to be? And I think what I've learned from you there, Costa, was that if there's not clear differentiation, and that is not authentic in terms of the business owner and the business. And it's not about things that the customers will really value, that really see as benefits. Yeah. People say, oh yeah, get a conveyancer, do a search on Google, keyword conveyancing, best price, and up come a whole bunch of these discount shops online. I don't know how they're making a profit, if in fact they are making a profit. There's probably a bunch of other things they end up charging for that they don't tell the client about. If you haven't made the effort to differentiate and communicate and therefore build the perception that the benefits that you'll get in dealing with me as your conveyancer or lawyer or law firm, and what the experience will be like versus the fees, people are just going to focus on the fees. So you just buy the lowest price. Because I get the best value, everything else is the same just by getting the lowest price. Now you think about when you buy some things online, and I regularly use something like Amazon, and for me, knowing I'm going to be at the office the next day when they're going to deliver it, and it's easy to track and easy to return, I don't really care if the price is another 15 or 20% over what I might be able to get from someone else. I value those benefits, and therefore value for me is higher. So just encourage everyone to think about, write down that formula, perceived value equals perceived benefits minus costs. What are the perceived benefits? It picks up on points both Liz, you were making around, this is a purchase of a service that most people don't have any experience with if they're a first-time buyer of a home or a property, or if there is only a second-time buyer, which people might be buying a second one, maybe an investment property. They have some experience, but maybe they did it 7 or 8 years ago, for example. And the importance around differentiation and the word trust. So because the customers will typically have low knowledge about what conveyancing and the property transfer process is about and the steps that are involved and all of those sorts of things, and because they're emotionally very involved, because there's lots of money involved, hundreds of thousands of dollars, perhaps in the millions of dollars, the emotions are running very high. So that explains why they're often going to ask someone that they trust, a friend who's, just bought a property. So let's say amongst that first-time home buyer group, they've saved up a deposit, they've got a bit of help from the bank of mum and dad, a couple of their friends in the last 6 months have bought and had their smiling faces on Instagram with the sold sticker at the front of the property that they've bought. You can bet your bottom dollar that in some cases, those people that have successfully bought a property, who have got friends that have just got something in an auction or had their offer accepted, they will be one source. Another source will be, for advice, will be just professionals that people know, I need to get a lawyer involved. And so then they might talk to someone who's a lawyer that they know. Or if they've used a lawyer in the past for a legal transaction that may have been around getting a will in place, or perhaps there's been, a divorce or something along those lines, or an inheritance. So they might not even remember the name of the law firm if all the law firm did was dealt with the matter and the file, and after the invoice was paid, there's been no interaction whatsoever. So we had an earlier webinar, I think last year, around how to build high trust, and I encourage you guys to log into Business Advantage for Conveyancers and look at the webinar recordings, because it looks at what's called the 4C model. And so, to be trusted, you need to be trustworthy. To be trustworthy, you need to have the right character. So putting the client's interests first. You need to have credibility, all the appropriate qualifications, and ideally many, many years of experience or evidence of the high level of experience. You need to have some commonality in rapport to understand the client, the situation they're in, what they're dealing with, what they're going with, what their level of knowledge is on this one small part of the overall thing called conveyancing. And finally, your capability. And often you demonstrate your capability, the fourth C, by the way you interact with your prospective clients. So the brand, how they see and how they hear and how they feel and interact with the brand, what's in the emails, when the phone calls take place. All of those sorts of things demonstrate your capability. And to convert the prospect who's made the inquiry over, first of all, if they've got to the website, that the brand and the website design and other key elements has to be spot on to then get them to make the inquiry, whether that's then online or picking up the telephone. So these things are absolutely critical. And when they do inquire online or pick up the telephone, how you interact with them, understand their needs, help them understand what's involved and therefore what your proposed fees would be, not your quote, your proposed fees. You have demonstrated through that process those 4 C's and therefore established a high level of trust that's very likely that will have you win that client, charge an appropriate fee for the services and the quality and care that you provide, and a good margin. And when you deliver on all of that, the ability to then get referrals from that person and get a high quality online review.
Websites and social media and newsletters, as Costa was saying, is kind of the clothes you put on. This is the face you actually present, but it's an amazing opportunity for you to build trust and communicate that value that Bill was talking about as well. So, but there are not all things are created equal. So I know a lot of people think, why don't we just, have a Facebook page and off we go? Why do I actually need a website? And with websites, you're actually the owner of your website. There are many, many stories now, particularly with so many spammers on social media, that pages just get shut down at a moment's notice or not even any notice. So you could have someone pretending to be you on social media, someone will report the fake page, and suddenly you'll find your page is also caught up in the mess and it goes down. So I really encourage you, always have a website. It's yours, and you actually control the content, you control who, what's on there, and you own it. So it's not up to somebody else that may actually, to shut it down, like what could happen on social media. Websites also give you credibility. So even if someone gets a referral to your business, there is still a high likelihood they're going to check you out on your website. And your website should look, as Costa was saying, it needs to look like a brand, a company, a business that is worthy of their trust, that is worthy of them actually paying the money. Remember, these are often highly emotional transactions. They need to look at your website and say, this is a business that I can trust. This is a business that's here for the long term. And the other great thing about websites is that they grow with you. So social media can grow with you, but often it's kind of keeps you looking small, or, as I said, it can be shut down pretty quickly. But the big advantage of social media is the customer profiling. So Facebook, and now through Instagram, in terms of your advertising, if you did want to put out, if you were going to run webinars and other information type sessions and actually start informing and being that trusted advisor out into the market, Facebook can actually allow you to select people who may have been looking for houses. And Google also allows you to do that. So in terms of social media, actually having a Google business page is imperative. As Costa was saying, when potential customers do that first Google search, if you have a Google business page with your location on it, you will automatically come up before a lot of other businesses, and inviting reviews also raises your profile on the Google search as well. So the one key thing is to have a Google business page, and then we'll talk a little bit further about the other social media channels. But both of these are great in terms of websites and social media are great for actually building that presence, showing your brand, communicating who you are for your customers, and giving your customers information. So in terms of minimum website requirements, you must have consistent branding. Human beings from the dawn of time, we are trained to look for inconsistencies, because, you know, an inconsistency several thousand years ago could have meant there was a tiger in the jungle. Okay, we're not looking just at trees, we're looking at a tiger there. So we're actually trained to look for inconsistency. So it is critical that your branding, the colors, the message you put out, the tone of that message is consistent across all things, your website and all social channels. Otherwise, people will pick up an incongruency and go, hang on, is that the same business? I'm not sure if that's the same business, because it looks slightly different, or it sounds slightly different, or something's a little bit off here. And that will instantly deplete the trust they may have had in you. Register with Google and other search engines, and because that will actually help you be found, and also have a Google business page. Make it easy to navigate and have a positive user experience. So a lot of people love to, I find this a lot in professional services, they love to put the big words on their website to kind of make it look like they know more or something like that. Don't do that. Just don't do that. Someone's looking to get a conveyancer, they're buying a house, they're selling a house. They want to know that they can understand what you're talking about. And remember, this is a massive opportunity for you to be communicating, to be holding their hand, to be taking them on the journey. They need to be able to feel that they can trust you and the way that you talk, and they need to be able to relate to the way you actually talk. Make sure you do have easy to understand and easy to find services, so that they're not sitting there, oh, what does this person do? You know, it's got to be easy. Make it easy for them, and have an About Us page so that you can actually communicate that essence of your business to your customers. Always have contact details. Make that easy as well. Make it easy for them to actually pick up the phone or send you an email so that they can contact you really easily. And make sure it's also optimized for search engine optimization, otherwise known as SEO. And that's optimizing for the search engines to actually rank you on page 1. So you must have relevant, up-to-date, and credible content. Okay, you can do this through having blogs, particularly keeping it up to date, putting a blog on at least every 2 to 4 weeks, updating your frequently asked questions, just updating certain things on your website, because every time you do an update, the search engines will go, oh, this has been updated, and it will start to go, these people are clearly a real business, they're existing, they're professional, they're updating. Keywords. So keywords are the words that the search engines use to rank you. So they're the words your customers actually use to search for your services. So it may be conveyancing Melbourne, it may be conveyancing a particular Bentley, a particular suburb. It may be buying a house. So understand what words your customers actually use to find your services, and use those both in your content and in your meta tags, which is something your website person will know what to do. Images that are fast to load and have descriptions on them, again, using those keywords, making sure they're consistent. So whatever image you have, the information you have actually matches what that image looks like. Remember now, Google can see what the images look like. So if you have an image of a person and then the description on that is completely different, it'll start to think what's going on here. Have internal links and backlinks. And backlinks, and this is why having social media is great, you can link from your social media to your website. That's a backlink. That's so that the more links coming into your website, the more likely people are going to keep landing on your website, which builds your credibility as well. And of course, make sure it's mobile responsive. So if your website is more than 10 years old, please make sure it's mobile responsive and have a look at it. Get a few other people to have a look at it, see what it looks like on a mobile phone. The other thing to think about with search engine optimization is, don't think that because you searched for keywords on your computer and your website came up page 1, that is coming up page 1 for anyone else. It's coming up page 1 because you've been on it before. So if you want to see where you're currently ranking, get someone who's never been on your website to pop in a few search terms and see where you're actually popping up. A couple of other things with website functionality. Encourage people to sign up to a newsletter. Newsletter is amazing real estate for you, and I would say even more critical often than social media, because it's an opportunity for you to communicate with your customers on a regular basis. So you can communicate just changes in the law, but you can just communicate by giving them great information about the housing market, about all things related to buying and selling a house. Again, building that credibility, and maybe some of those people then forward those emails to friends of theirs who are buying or selling, and suddenly your name starts getting out there more and more as a trusted professional, which again builds that value. Social media links, so social media back to your social media, as well as from social media coming in. Any accreditation logos, build that trust. A contact us form, as well as your contact details. Don't rely just on the contact us form, because if someone's just been at an auction and the agent said, who's your conveyancer, it's actually quite handy for you to be able, for that person to be able to just call you or send you an email or contact you in some other way. Frequently asked questions. So this, in addition to blogs, is a great thing to have to instantly build your credibility with customers. So they could be questions around, so, you know, you've just bought a house, what happens next? Or you're thinking of selling, what do you need? Things like that. You could also have perhaps a download or a white paper of some description. So something, you know, about the whole selling a business, or what's in a section 32 or something like that, something that people can download that's heavily branded. And as I said, Google Analytics. So Google Analytics is different to registering with a search engine, and it's different to having a Google business page. This is the actual analytics that can sit on your website, and so you can actually see, where are people coming from? Is anyone coming from the social media channels? How are they landing? Who's actually landing on my page? Where are they located? All of these things you can actually find out with Google Analytics. So social media, versus newsletters. As I said, newsletters are incredibly good real estate. Now, it may take you a while to build much of a list, but you can invite others onto that list and then encourage them in that newsletter to actually share the newsletter. And this is a great way to build your brand, to build credibility as a professional. Again, you're in control of it, and there's many newsletter software out there that's actually free, so it's not necessarily a huge expense. With social media, be where your customers gather. Now, Facebook is still the biggest social media channel both in the world and in Australia. There's 18.5 million active monthly users in Australia. Instagram, there's 10 million. TikTok is, back in January, is up around 2 million. I think that's growing every month, so it's probably up quite a bit more since then. And LinkedIn, 8.5 million. And the other one is YouTube at 17.5 million active users, so a little bit less than Facebook. And this is just in Australia. But the key thing here is pick one and then be where your customers gather. So know who your customers are likely to be. Are they of a certain age? Are they a certain demographic? And think about, well, which of these channels is going to be best? Which of these channels are my customers on? So as a general rule now, it's kind of 35 to 40 plus are on Facebook, and 35 and lower are on Instagram. A lot of people cross those channels, but if you're really aiming for that first home buyer, the younger demographic, you might want to pick Instagram and think about TikTok. If you're aiming more for the second or third home buyer or the investors, you might want to think about Facebook. Or if you're really only targeting professionals, then perhaps LinkedIn. The key thing is to be where they gather. And the key thing also is that these people are not on these social media channels to be sold to. You need to connect with them, you need to inform them, and you need to entertain them. So when you're doing your actual content plans, think about those three things: connecting, informing, and entertaining.
But with respect to referrals, one of the keys to getting a referral is to ensure that when you're dealing with your clients, you are setting appropriate expectations and then exceeding their expectations. Now, you do that by educating them on the process, the steps that are involved, the timeframes, keeping them closely updated on how things are going. And in the ideal world, only having positive surprises. We know the big negative surprise is a fail to settle on the target day, which would have been, let's say, a Friday, and the removalists were organised and everyone was ready to go then to be starting the unpacking on the Saturday. And then you're having to make contact on the Thursday or the Friday morning and saying the other side's not going to settle. We know how much stress all of that creates. Now, again, in that scenario, having something on hand that would help people find the alternative accommodation, maybe at a serviced apartment or somewhere where the stuff can be stored, will help them deal with that. But if you can set their expectations appropriately and then exceed them, you will be delighting them. That's a positive emotional response, and they're going to be much more likely to actively refer you when people ask about, which conveyancer did you use? What were they like? Understand what else the clients are dealing with. So, Liz is really, focused on this theme of the high level of emotions involved with buying and selling property. Now, of course, then there's planning the move. So if you've, actually, won at the auction or got it, or you've successfully sold it, there's a lot involved in terms of moving. So again, making available some checklists, having them available on the website, sending them to a website like Smaver where there's an interactive and savable checklist for them. When it comes to making the move, perhaps you've got some partners that you can refer them to, or you can again refer them to smaver.com.au where they can access a range of savings on everything from storage to removal of services. Now, then there's actually settling in. Interestingly, while NBN companies and electricity and gas companies and removalist companies are all after people that have just sold the house or bought a house and competitively market to them all the time, most clients after settlement are left to their own devices. The matter has been done, the file has been closed. They don't necessarily hear anything from their lawyer or conveyancing firm after that, because there may not be a newsletter, or it may not be deemed worthwhile having a newsletter in place or putting them on the list. But there's a whole range of things that they need help with, particularly if they've moved into a new suburban area. And I'll show you briefly the Smaver welcome packs, but it's a very simple thing that helps them get all the information they need about settling in, and that again will help them think very positively of your firm and put you in the ideal situation then to ask for referrals and to ask for online reviews. Now, most people find it difficult to actually write an online review, to put together the 250 odd words that might go into an online review. Now, people that are really, really unhappy at one end of the spectrum will provide very negative reviews. And then, as Costa pointed out, if you're getting those, you need to think about how you manage and respond to those rather than just letting them sit there. But people that have had a good experience, and maybe a fabulous experience, maybe they don't find the time to write the review. So there are ways of making it super easy for them, not only to write reviews that you can then have on something like your Google business page, but also to provide you with quotes and testimonials that can go on your website and other marketing promotional material to let your very satisfied clients talk about just how happy they were, how professional the service was, and how much they'd highly recommend you. Now, again, just log into Business Advantage for Conveyancers into the membership area and ask the coaches. There's a little button there, and they can send you through some suggestions on exactly how to go about getting these positive reviews and positive referrals, as well as in the next few weeks, we will actually start to have available for our members draft newsletters that you can then easily put onto your system and then send out to your clients that are at different stages, whether it's about planning the move, actually making the move, or settling in. Well, now that they own a property, perhaps you know that they're an investor, keeping them up to date with what's going on with property values in that area, for example. I mentioned Smaver very briefly. If you haven't looked at Smaver, the website address is smaver.com.au. The welcome pack, there are now 350 different welcome packs for different local government areas. those 350 local government areas have 90% of all the property sales taking place in them. So you can make this available very easily, to your clients. They can get the local information that they need about the local government, all the emergency contacts. Importantly, direct links on the information they've got to update with people like the Electoral Commission or with the state governments around things like fines, or with people like Medicare. So it's very, very helpful. Now, thousands of these things are going out every week. And if your clients aren't getting them, they might be getting them from someone else, but they should be getting them from you guys. We've had someone ask us around, what sort of investment should they be looking at with respect to, paying for someone to do ongoing social media. Now, you mentioned like having a regular blog post, so the website is hygienic for the search engines and therefore more likely to be ranked higher. As well as then, having useful, educational, entertaining related connection content that might go on, say, a Facebook page for the business or an Instagram page for the business. But in terms of your experience, and I know you see dozens of these firms in operation, what, for someone who's got a 2 or 3 person conveyancing practice, what sort of a budget, would they be expecting to invest in that?
It kind of depends on how much they want the firm to do, but if they want them to take complete control, you'd probably be looking at around $250 a week. In that vicinity, sort of 200 to say 300 a week, if you want them to have complete control over all of your social media channels and to do several posts a week. Blogs can be anywhere from $250 to $500 each. If you're doing a lot of the work and you just want assistance, you want, say, a coach, then that's quite a bit less. And you can actually get great digital coaches, as you've already said, Bill, through Small Business Australia. So probably the biggest issue with social media, and the reason why a lot of people shy away from it, is coming up with the content. So if you can get someone to help you with your actual content plan, which the coaches at Small Business Australia can do, you might find it much easier after that.
Yeah. Look, and I know, Liz, that a number of members of our team have been evaluating various artificial intelligence tools to help write things like blog posts and even newsletters. And certainly the preliminary reports they're coming back with is these things can be very useful, particularly if you've got an idea around exactly the sorts of questions you want to ask the AI tool, and you've got the ability then to sort of look at what it is suggesting and do the quality control on it. So sort of getting back to, Costa, one of your themes, the last thing you want to do is use some of these tools, but be not clear about what's the quality of what they're coming up with, then putting it on your social media or potentially on your website, or having an AI robot generate a newsletter, and it actually detracting from your brand positioning and your brand identity because it's not quite right. I've got a question for you, Costa. Someone's asked a question around, look, they've got a pretty basic website. I've got a couple of social media sort of handles or sites that they've got on Instagram and Facebook. In terms of your experience over the years in helping people set up a quality website for a professional services firm, what's sort of the range of dollars and sort of the typical time frame that would be involved to get a reasonable one set up from scratch?
Oh, the key thing is the websites can be done very quickly. It's the common complaint you hear from a web developer is, I don't get enough content from the client, it's not high quality, and I'm waiting on my client. So they're waiting on the visual identity, the graphics and logos, they're waiting on photos and videos, the copy. Give me the content. The structure can be made, quite simply. So I'd be thinking about making sure you know how you want to look like on photos and videos, get them organized, get your copy organized, and then it becomes plug and play. Like when you go, you're going to cook a cake. If you start hunting around for the ingredients, they're not there, you're just going to make do or miss out. But if you've planned it and everything lined up, a bit of this, bit of this, bit of this, it's all done. It's easy to go. So look, it could take a month. It could take longer. How quickly? The key thing is understand what you need, and then you can build the building blocks. The website development is the easy part. And then once you have it, you need to keep it, like you guys are saying, you got to keep it up to date. You can't just leave it there and it's tick the box and it's done forever. You've got to keep content on there, write something. And then you talk about AI, we got to be careful. You just don't go to ChatGPT, put in a one-line prompt and go, write me this, you'll get the most generic thing you'll ever see. And I've done this, I've tested it. Your prompts have to be very specific. And then I actually go over to Grammarly and hit the copy and paste in there and hit the plagiarism button. And then you'll see how much of what it came up with is actually being plagiarized. And then you've got to modify that to reduce it down to something very small or zero, because you've got to protect the content you put on there, because Google, your search engine will say, well, that's not generated by a human, and I'm not going to rank you for it. So you think, yeah, I've got great content, but actually it's a negative result instead of being positive. So you might think it's good, but you're actually doing damage to yourself.
Look, so what I'm hearing there, Costa, and I know from the feedback I get from other coaches and service providers in this whole branding and digital marketing space, that if you're pretty well organized and you've got some professional photos and things taken, and you've got the images you want to use, call it a month, and call it somewhere between probably $2,000 and $4,000, for the website. But if you're not well organized, in some cases you're better off going and buying the packaged cake rather than having the recipe and then scrounging around trying to find the ingredients, and then actually discovering that the oven won't get to the heat that you actually need to necessarily do it. And I think one of the things that's changed in business in recent years is the proliferation, so the complexity of everything to do with the IT solutions involved with the business and everything involved with marketing and sales and advertising, but the essentials of branding still remain the same. So the clarity around who you are, what your purpose as a business is, what's motivated you to get this thing going or to buy it and to keep operating it. And everyone on this call are business owners, so we know what it's like. We're not someone from some big companies telling you what you should be doing, but these areas of IT and increasingly marketing and advertising and promotion in the digital age have never been more complex, and there's never been a greater need to get some professionals that you can trust and to work your way through it, because it will make a significant difference to the level of energy and effort that you're putting into your business. You'll be able to generate more revenue, a high level of profitability, as we'd like to say at Business Advantage for Conveyancers, more success with less stress.